March, a transitional month between winter and spring, signaling that we are on the cusp of golf season. Or not. Yeah, this sucks. Well, being outside is depressing, so let's take this inside. In today's video, I'll be reviewing TaylorMade's newest line of drivers for 2024, the Qi10 series. So TaylorMade's made really good drivers for a long time, so I don't expect there to be any surprises when it comes to the performance, but it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up against my Titleist TS3 from 2018. I'm going to be testing all three models, the Qi10 Max, the Qi10 Core, and the Qi10 LS. I'm not going to get too much into the design features of each of them that you can easily look up on TaylorMade's website. Essentially, the Max is going to be the most forgiving, the Qi10 Core is the sort of all-arounder, and the Qi10 LS is the low-spinning model for higher swing speeds, or people that just need to bring the RPMs down on their spin a little bit. So I did the test on a TrackMan launch monitor, and I measured 5 metrics: carry distance, total distance, club head speed, ball speed, and spin rate. My gamer driver has a Project X Hazardous Smoke Yellow Shaft 6.5 in it. If you want to know more about that, you can check out my What's in the Bag video, which I will link down below or throw maybe a card up there. For the TaylorMades, I didn't have access to the same shaft for the TaylorMade heads, so I ended up using a Mitsubishi Tensei Blue in the extra stiff. Not quite the same flex profile, but one of the few options that there was in an extra stiff that I had at the time. And the ball I used was a Pro V1X. So after a few swings with my gamer to establish some baseline numbers, this is what came out of that. I was a little surprised at the club head speed I was getting. I usually live around 115, 116, and as you'll see, I was averaging a little bit higher than that, which is not a complaint. I'm definitely happy to see that. It was just a little surprising. So carry distance, we averaged 272.2 yards, 297.4 average total distance, and then again that average club head speed at 119.8. So that's pretty fast. Like I said, happy to see it. Definitely wasn't expecting that. Average ball speed was 168.2, which in relation to that club head speed is a little bit on the slow side. They should be getting a little bit more ball speed off of how fast the club head was moving. So whether it was the age of the driver or I wasn't quite hitting it in the center of the club face, that remains to be seen. Although I don't think I was hitting them too badly. There weren't any huge mishits or anything like that. Spin was at 2,764 RPM, which is like a touch high. It's not too bad. I like to see it somewhere between 2,200 to 2,500, and 2,700 is just above that, but still under 3,000, so pretty good. They were also going a little bit left on me. I seem to not hook the ball quite as much. So yeah, so starting with the Qi10 Max, this is the most forgiving of the three driver heads. It's got that design that they are claiming to have 10,000 MOI, which basically just means the most forgiveness. Down by the ball, it actually looks pretty good. It's definitely the biggest head of the three, but it doesn't look too sort of bulbous when you look down at it. Forgiving drivers tend to look very, very large. And while you can tell that this one is bigger than the other two, it's not outrageous to the point where I don't like looking at it, which is a good thing. We can already see in the swings that I took a pretty significant difference between that and my Titleist. So we, averaged 16 more yards of carry distance at 288.2, 13 more yards of total distance at 310.4, all while swinging the club about 2 miles per hour slower. I only averaged, I averaged 117.6 miles per hour with the Qi10 Max. So 2.2 miles per hour slower, but I was getting more carry and more total distance. And the ball speed was actually increased to 173.4 from the 168 with my Titleists. And the spin rate was exactly the same, which I thought was pretty funny. That doesn't usually happen. So we can see that even though I was swinging the club slower, that I was getting better numbers. So I think what that tells us is that my 6-year-old driver, the amount of time that's gone by to now when the new ones are coming out, there's definitely been some advancements in technology. And so, not that I didn't expect to see better numbers, but it's kind of night and day that the newer drivers are definitely better than a 6-year-old one. As far as the club head speed goes, it's 2 miles per hour is I guess. To me, I would chalk that up to maybe the size of the driver head, right? Like a bigger driver head is going to take up more space, so it's going to be a little bit less aerodynamic, so you just get that little dip in speed. But again, it didn't really matter because the overall numbers were better. As far as dispersion goes, I had a couple go left, a couple go right, and I think one went down the middle. I'm not the most accurate driver of the golf ball, so you're going to see my golf ball miss. Usually left. I don't expect any driver to magically make me hit the ball that straight. Forgiveness to me is more about, do you maintain ball speed when you don't hit it in the center? And less about, the driver making you hit it straighter, because I really think that it doesn't matter what driver you use. If you have the face way open, the face way closed, it's going to go right or it's going to go left. That's just physics. So next up, the Qi10 Core. the sort of the standard model, I guess you can say. Maybe not quite as forgiving as the Max, a little more forgiving than the LS, but essentially it's going to be the one that caters to the most golfers, right? It's kind of that middle of the road club. Slightly smaller head than the Max, looks really good down by the ball. I will say this about the Qi10 just as a whole. I do like the blue face. Definitely better than the red face from the Stealth. I didn't hate the red face as much as some people did, but I definitely like the blue better. As far as the numbers go, we had that average club head speed come back up to 119.6. So again, I think just the slightly smaller head makes it just a little bit more aerodynamic, so you can get a little bit more speed. However, as far as carry distance, total distance, and ball speed, all of those were actually a little bit lower than the Qi10 Max, which was interesting. Spin was lower too, but that you would kind of expect that from the Core in comparison to the Max, so that's not a surprise there. I will say that the shots that I hit with the Qi10 Core, they were launching a little bit lower, so that was either a strike issue or just swing mechanics. Maybe my angle of attack was a little more down, or what have you, but they were coming out a little bit lower, so they weren't so that's probably why they weren't carrying quite as far. I mean, the ball speed was pretty close to what it was with the Max. So I think if I were to improve those launch conditions with having the slightly lower spin rate than the Max, then you would see those numbers be maybe just a little bit better. Couple shots left, couple shots right. Like I said before, I'm not the most accurate driver. They weren't wildly offline. I can be off the planet sometimes, and that really wasn't the case. So last but not least, we have the Qi10 LS. It's the smallest head out of the three. Theoretically the least forgiving as well, but down by the ball is definitely my favorite. I just like the look of the smaller head. Looks really good to me. I will say this about TaylorMade drivers is that all of them sound really good. So they have this sort of dull, kind of muted, kind of thud sound that it makes instead of like a ting or a ping that you hear with some drivers. I've thought that TaylorMade drivers have sounded really good for a while. I think they do a really good job with that. far as the performance goes, it was kind of the best of the three for me. Carry distance was the best. Total distance was the furthest, had the highest ball speed, and the lowest spin, which wasn't super low because it averaged 26-ish hundred RPM, all while not even having the fastest swing speed. So 118.6 of about a mile an hour slower than a couple of the other tests, but really good performance. To sum it all up, you know, I could put any one of these three drivers in the bag. I mean, they all performed better than my current driver. That's not to say that Titleist makes bad drivers. They actually make really good drivers. Mine's just super old. So I think that speaks more to the fact that, you know, the newer technology is just outshining older technology in this case. But, you know, like I said, any one of them could go in the bag for me based on the numbers that we saw here. I mean, if I had to choose, I got the best numbers out of the LS model. You know, and you get the right shaft or get fitted for a shaft in any one of them, and I think you can improve these numbers even more, because like I said, I just kind of grabbed whatever extra stiff shaft that they had available. But just based on the numbers, Qi10 LS would probably be the one I would go with if I were to get one of these. Hard to go wrong with sort of any of them. They produce really good numbers, and I don't see any reason to not get them over something that's, again, as old as mine. Year to year, you might not see that sort of jump in performance with new models of golf clubs, like year on year, but you know, like I said, there's about 6 years difference here, so there's a significant sort of leap in how the clubs perform. And so if you're, you know, looking for a new driver, you know, I got some pretty good numbers out of these new TaylorMades. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.